Kate from Grow Your Own Joy, and in this video I'm just going to show you some cooking and preserving projects that I've done this week. I've been doing some of the Every Bit Counts challenge in the month of August and trying to preserve things that I've grown or things that I've purchased for future use, as well as doing a little bit of trying to clean out my pantry, freezer, and fridge a little. So there's a little bit of everything in this video. I hope you enjoy. My family really liked the refrigerator pickles that I made with the leftover jalapeno brine. So I have these cucumbers and I'm not going to be home for a couple days, so I don't want them to go bad. So I'm actually going to take this leftover brine. It still has a little bit of salt at the bottom, so I'm going to heat it up again. And I'm going to take the brine that was on these pickles and heat it up again. Because I just like the texture of the pickles better when you pour the hot liquid over it. And then I'm going to add the onions, the garlic, the pickling spice, and these cucumbers to a few jars and make some more refrigerator pickles. They'll sit for about a week and then we can enjoy them. This is some homegrown garlic, and I'm just going to use a few cloves and put them in the jars. And then I'll slice up some onion, and obviously the cucumbers will go in too. So I find that the homegrown garlic is a little bit harder to peel. I assume that the stuff that's at the grocery store has cured a lot longer. So that's probably what it is, but I'm going to get these peeled and sliced up, and then I'll move on to the cucumbers and the onions. I got 3 jars of pickles for the refrigerator. I was a little short on the cucumbers to make 3 complete jars, so I just added a little extra onion, and that'll be great. We enjoy the pickled onions as well, so these will go in the refrigerator, and we can eat them in about a week. Tonight, for dinner and for breakfast for a few days, I am making a gluten-free crustless quiche. And I'm just using what I have. So I had a package of uncured bacon that I cut up and put in here. I wasn't going to use the whole thing, but a lot of fat rendered out of it and it didn't end up being that much bacon. So I have that in a greased pie plate, and then I'm going to add a few more things. I have kale and Swiss chard from the garden that I picked and washed up the other day. I stored it in the fridge. So I'm going to chop this up and cook this up, and this will go into the quiche. My onions were a huge fail this year, but I'm still going to use what I have. These were planted, there weren't bulbs when I put them in. They were started from seed. I didn't start them from seed. I bought them from a nursery that started them from seed, and they did not have bulbs like this when I planted them. So yep, that didn't work out so well. I'll try something different next year, but I am still going to use these little tiny onions to saute up and put in my quiche. So I have my sauteed greens and onions and my bacon in my greased pie pan, and I'm going to mix up the egg mixture that will go over the top. I'm also going to add some Parmesan cheese and some of that feta cheese that I got for $2.99 on special. So it'll be nice and creamy and cheesy. For my crustless quiche egg part, I'm going to use some gluten-free Bisquick. Still out of milk, so using this evaporated milk that I had left over from, I forget what I made with that. My evaporated milk that I have left over. This was the 75% off one. And then I had these eggs that I got 50% off, which they were pretty pricey before. So I'm going to use those up in the quiche. So I added my feta, about a third of that container, and a little bit of Parmesan to my pan. And then I mixed up my mixture in here. It's 4 eggs, 1 cup of milk. It can be any kind of milk. I've used cream, I've used whole milk, skim milk, I've used almond milk. If it's too thick with a creamier thing like cream or evaporated milk, I do just add a little bit of water. This is a little bit thick, but I think it will be just fine. Another thing that I do is if I have a lot of eggs I need to use up, I have added more eggs to this and just used a bigger pie plate or a casserole to make it. You can use any combination, any type of cheese, meat, or vegetable that you like in it. I've done caramelized onions in it, broccoli and ham with cheddar cheese. What else have I done? I've done like leftover taco meat, fajita meat, fajita vegetables. Basically anything you could think of, you can put in this quiche and use it up. It's a really great thing to use up a bunch of things that you have hanging around the house that you're not sure what to use them in. And then another thing that I sometimes do is I'll add a little bit of hot sauce to the batter that I'm pouring on top, and it'll give it a little kick. I'm not going to do that today, but it is really good. I poured the batter on top, and I'm going to bake this at 400 degrees. This is the gluten-free Bisquick that I use, and it's usually right next to the regular Bisquick at my grocery store. It's just in a smaller box, and I like it. I find it does really well. You can substitute it for regular Bisquick in recipes that use regular Bisquick. I don't use it for too many things, but I do enjoy it in this recipe and a few other recipes. So the quiche is done. I may have left it in a few minutes too long. It's a little bit brown right here. This went about 30 minutes because I heard my timer go off at 25 minutes and I was doing something and then I forgot to take it out. But see how it's firm to the touch? It's really hot, but that's what it should be like, and I'm sure it will be delicious. You should absolutely wait for this to cool before trying to cut it, but I'm really hungry. So I cut a slice and I'm going to let it cool on the plate before I eat it, and I'm sure it'll be delicious. I'm probably going to have a little hot sauce on it and maybe some of my sauerkraut on the side. I washed some basil and I have it sitting on this towel to dry, and I'm going to mix it up with some olive oil and freeze it for later. And in this over here, I have celery trying to crisp up in here. I harvested yesterday and it got wilty, and then some little radishes, so I'll have to find something to do with those. And I also have quite a few tomatoes. I'm still thinking on what to do with those. I have all this basil, some of which is from outside from my garden beds, and some is from my AeroGarden that I have inside. And what I'm going to do, because I don't think I have enough to make a batch of pesto, but I do have enough that I can freeze and use for cooking later. So I'm going to food process it up in this little mini food processor with some olive oil, and then I'll put it in these silicone cups and freeze it. Once it's frozen, I'll pop it out and add it to a Ziploc bag that I already have going of herbs frozen just like this, and that'll save some of this basil for later use. this is what it looks like. And all I'm going to do is see how many little cups I can fill up, and I'll put it in the freezer to freeze. And I don't know how much I'll want each time that I use it, so I'm going to do like smaller amounts, and then if I end up wanting more, I could use more than 1 cup, but it's easier than having to go back and try to break these up if I want less. So I'm just doing a little bit in each one, and I think I'll get, I think there's only enough for, there's enough for 4. We'll do 4. Getting every last bit of that basil that I put energy into growing. I want to make sure that I'm trying to use everything that we have and not have anything go to waste. Sometimes it still happens that things go bad, things get wasted, but usually it's something that can go in my compost, so at least then it will be nutrients for future gardens, and it'll still be something that I can use. But if I can, I like to preserve everything so that it will eventually get eaten. So there we go. I have 4 little cups. There they are. And I'll put them into the freezer. And then once they're frozen, I'll pop them out and store them in a Ziploc bag. I also have this celery that I need to preserve. And I have some celery in my freezer that I grew. I'm kind of running out of space in my freezer, to be honest. So, when someone asked me where I put everything, and I do put it in my deep freezer, but after the renovation, we'll probably need to get a second deep freezer to help us with the amount of food that we preserve and clearance food that we buy and whatnot. So what I'm going to do with this celery is I'll chop it up and put it in my dehydrator, and then I can use it in soups, stews, meatloaf, sauces, and it'll be just fine in that. It'll just be like an added flavoring. It won't have the same texture, but that's fine with us. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Then I'm putting it on my dehydrator trays. I do have some parchment. On this one I have a silicone mat, just so that the small pieces of celery don't fall through in my dehydrator, and then I'll store it in a jar for future use. Making this dinner with the intention of having some leftovers for another dinner during the week. Here are the Caesar chicken thighs I preserved as part of the Every Bit Counts challenge. 2 zucchinis that I grew that need to be used up with olive oil, salt, and pepper. I'll grill those up with the chicken. And then in this, it's all the tiny potatoes from my potato harvest. That didn't go as well as expected, but that's okay. We're still going to eat them. So it's the tiny potatoes, the radishes that I was able to salvage from the deer attack in my yard, some dried rosemary that was from our garden, dried chives from our garden, olive oil, salt, and pepper, and I'm going to roast that up. And that'll be hopefully dinner tonight and another meal during the week. I'm not filming this whole thing because I'm running out of memory on my phone, and I'll have to move some files. But I just wanted to show you how pretty this looks on the tray with the different potatoes and the radishes and the herbs. And I grew most of this, which makes me so thrilled. So happy to be eating this. Here are the roasted potatoes. And I cut up some cantaloupe. And there are the grilled chicken thighs and zucchini. And we can eat on this today, and we'll have it for dinner tomorrow. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for sticking with me. I tried to show you little bits and pieces of the preserving and the cooking that I'm doing. I've been doing a lot of trying to preserve produce and other things that I'm bringing into the house as time goes on. I didn't I actually didn't do the whole thing because things got pretty hectic here at the end of August, but I did try my best to preserve a little bit every single day with the Every Bit Counts challenge. And I'm also trying to use up what's in my pantry, freezer, and fridge. So I did a little bit of that in this video. There's a lot more of that I plan on filming in September. And I also hope to get a garden tour out to you with the chaos that is the September garden. So please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see any of those videos that are coming out. And have a great day, everyone.